Okay, good evening. Since 5:30 p.m., the Board of Education has been in closed session to consider the following: discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 2.06, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular district has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, and collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives. I will entertain a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second are heard. Please call the roll, Mrs. Patton.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Wanke.
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Kuzminski.
Aye.
McMillan.
Aye.
Gerke.
Aye.
Kush.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Good evening and welcome to our June 20th board meeting. Our mission is to educate students to be self-directed learners, collaborative workers, complex thinkers, quality producers, and community contributors. I would like to note that today is the holiday observance of Juneteenth, commemorating the emancipation of enslaved Americans. We set this Board of Education calendar before the Juneteenth holiday was set in Illinois. However, in future years, the Board of Education calendar will observe this holiday. Okay, now I would have you do the roll call.
Board members present this evening: Kristen Fitzgerald, Christine Gerke, Charles Kush, Tony Casey, Joe Kuzminski, Amanda McMillan, and Donna Wanke.
Okay, please join the Board of Education in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, this is a special board meeting in that this is our public hearing regarding the 2022-2023 budget. So I will now call to order the public hearing regarding the district's recommended fiscal year 2023 budget. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the process. The hearing will begin with comments by the administration. The administration's comments will be followed by a public comment period for the budget hearing only. There is a sign-up form. We don't have any people signed up, but if anyone wishes to speak on the budget, please use the form. Public comment will be made in order of the request. Like I said, we have none at this point. After the public comment section, the Board of Education will be invited to provide their comments, and then the hearing will then be closed. Our vote on the budget will be later in our agenda. Okay, so I'm going to start with, inviting our administration to give their comments about the budget.
Okay, I'll begin very briefly, just for the community's perspective. In board docs, publicly available for you is a presentation our CFO will run through very quickly here in a moment. A copy of the FY23 budget book in its final form, a resolution for the Board of Education to act upon later in the meeting this evening regarding the adoption of the FY23 budget and a statement of anticipated revenues. Also loaded within board docs for public review is a log in history of questions that have been asked by the Board of Education about the budget, as we have been discussing this over a number of board meetings going back to May 2nd, 2022. The board also has had a workshop on May 16th and June 6th. Citizen finance advisors have also had an opportunity to provide input. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Chief School Business Official, Mike Francis, to provide some additional comments.
Yeah, thank you. I got a brief presentation for this evening, very similar to the one we did in May, but just cut down a little bit. Tonight is the last step in the process for the adoption of the FY23 budget. Included in the agenda is a copy of the final budget, and I believe every board member has a copy of the book. With more detail and a fund-by-fund analysis with the comparisons to the fiscal year 21 actuals and fiscal year 22 budget figures. We normally also include a copy of the state budget form that we submit to the Illinois State Board of Education. That form has not yet been made available by the State Board of Education. We anticipate it being available in the next 2 weeks, and we'll complete and file it with the appropriate agencies once it's available. This, again, is a review of the timeline. The budget was reviewed with the Citizen Finance Advisors Committee, and the two workshops gave the board an opportunity to ask questions for which we have posted answers in board docs this evening. As you can see, tonight brings us to the end of the timeline with adoption at a agenda item later this evening. While there are no changes in the final budget from the tentative version presented in early May, I'll summarize the budget at a high level with comparisons to the current year's budget. This table highlights total revenue by fund, comparing the current year FY22 budget to the tentative budget to the final budget for FY23. Through this comparison, we see an overall revenue increase of just over $5.5 million, or 1.82%. When breaking down the revenue by major revenue source, you can see that the vast majority of the revenue increase is coming from local sources, both property taxes, and an increase in the amount of other local revenue, which stems from the estimated increase we will receive in corporate personal property replacement taxes. Total revenue is projected at $311.1 million for the upcoming year. This table summarizes the total expenditures by fund as compared to the current year's budget and shows the dollar and percentage differences for each. The overall change is just under $6.3 million, or 2.06 increase over the current year's budget. Most of these increases happen in the education fund, which makes up about 80% of the district's annual expenses. When breaking down expenditures by the major expenditure objects, salaries and benefits are planned to increase by 4.14% over the current budget. Overall, the budget shows expenses at $312.6 million. When comparing that to the estimated to the FY23 revenues, the district has a slight deficit budget of approximately $1.5 million, which is less than 0.5% of the overall expected spend for the upcoming year. With that, we can open up for the rest of the hearing and any other questions.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Next will be section 4.02, public comments. As I mentioned, I don't have any public comments. Does anyone in the audience wish to address the Board of Education on the budget? Okay, so we'll go on then to item 4.03, the Board of Education comments. Would any board member like to make comments about the budget at this time? Donna.
I just want to appreciate the process of having all of our questions answered in a document so that there's more transparency to that and that we can have that cumulative question available for everybody to see. So thank you.
Any additional comments? So on behalf of the board, I do want to thank our administrators for working together on this budget. I know it's a huge process that goes department by department and looks at all of our current spending and our future spending. So thank you on our behalf. As well, because this is our shortened presentation, we didn't talk very much about our new initiatives, but I am very excited, and I know the board is excited about the directors of student belonging and outreach at both high schools to work with the feeder schools. I know that's been really welcomed by families, and so I'm really excited about that new initiative, and I'm grateful that that was proposed, and then we can put that forward. Okay, and then of course we'll have an opportunity for additional budget comments when we get to the budget vote, but we'll now go on then to item 4.04, and so I will close the public hearing for the 2022-2023 budget. So now we'll move on to item 5, recognition. We'll begin with item 5.01, good news.
Okay, we'll begin with a couple quick recognitions before we call up our Naperville North water polo team. On Tuesday and Thursday morning of last week, summer school students in the business boot camp class at Jefferson Junior High School created unique lemonade stands. Each stand had a different company name, including Duck Lemonade, Heaven's Lemons, and Freeze and Squeeze. The students designed a logo and made signs to go with their stand, as well as slogans for their companies. They also chose what products to sell, including various snacks and flavors of lemonade. Great work during the summer. Must be a night about water polo. Naperville Central boys water polo coach Bill Salentine was recently inducted into the Illinois Water Polo Association Coaches Hall of Fame. Coach Salentine has been the boys water polo coach at Naperville Central since 1993, when it was a club sport. Since boys water polo was declared an official varsity sport by the IHSA in 2001, Coach Salentine has led the team to 3 state championships and 8 top 3 finishes. Congratulations to Coach Salentine. And then finally, students from Lori Kimberly's class at Washington Junior High School spent a mindful Monday creating more than 150 cards for members of Honor Flight Chicago, a nonprofit organization that sends veterans on a free trip to Washington, D.C. for a day to be honored and thanked for their service. Veterans will receive these cards prior to departing on upcoming trips. So a lot of great news, things still going on in the district this summer. So that concludes good news.
Great, thank you for reporting on that good news. That is indeed good news. All right, so we'll move on to item 5.02, recognition of our 2021-2022 NNHS Girls Water Polo State Champs.
All right, there we go. Coach McWhorter, there was a ramp over there if that would have been easier, so I hope you didn't hit the bottom of the pool. All right, very good. Congratulations to Naperville North Girls Water Polo team on your state championship. I also want to acknowledge and thank you for how well you represent the district throughout the community and throughout the state as you go out through our competition. So we're extremely proud of your effort, your work, and all that you've done. We'd like to recognize you now. I know who's going to, Coach McWhorter, there we go. You got any comments you want to make about the team as well?
Once again, want to recognize these young ladies who last year did an awesome job of winning state and kind of our closed COVID life that we had last year, and then returning to full-on people in the stands and having these girls do that hard work once again was just outstanding. So big round of applause for our Naperville North Girls Water Polo. So first up is Captain Claire Jansen. Second is Captain Ella Selman. Senior Cam Swanson. Senior Alex Mantel. Senior Sarah Crossett. And the future of our team, sophomore. Come on down. Callista Jensen. And my assistant coach, Andy Bax.
If you go stand with the team, Mrs. Posey, you have a few comments? Yep.
Andy McWhorter is also the head coach, and he has done, along with Andy Baxos, tremendous job of shepherding this exceptional group of girls through the process. And not only have they won back-to-back state championships, they also have a second and third and fourth place in their repertoire. So congratulations to all of you.
I think since you jumped in the pool with them, you should go up picture as well, no? Okay. So we'll let Mr. Maester take a picture really quick. And stay right there. If any of you'd like to go a little bit closer to get a better picture, you are more than welcome to do so. You're welcome to step on up. Come on up. Once again, congratulations. Thanks for representing Naperville 203 and Naperville North so well, so proudly. Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, we've reached the point in our agenda for public comment. I do not have any public comment slips tonight, nor were there any public comments submitted by email. Does anyone else in the audience wish to address the Board of Education? Okay, so we'll move on then to monthly reports. Listed in board docs are our monthly reports, Treasury, Investments, Insurance, and Budget. Does any member of the Board of Education have any questions about any of our monthly reports? All right, so then we'll move on to action by consent. I will entertain a motion for consent.
I did the bills and claims this month, so before I move consent, I just want to thank Michelle Swope and Mike Francis for meeting with me last Friday. It was great to meet Michelle, who's been with the district only about a month now, and did a great job of answering all my questions. Always interesting to see what kinds of expenses come up, especially through graduation and end of the school year this time around. So with that, I move approval of warrant number 1043194 through warrant number 3002983, totaling $25,188,107.65 for the period May 17, 2022 to June 20th, 2022, as well as items 8.01 through 8.07.
Second?
You have to abstain for one.
Move approval for 8.01, 8.02, 8.04, 8.05, 8.06, 8.07, and the 6 meetings under 803.
Great, that's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
A motion and a second are heard. Please call the roll, Mrs. Patton.
Kush.
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Wanke.
Aye.
Kuzminski.
Aye.
McMillan.
Aye.
Gerke.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Now I will entertain a motion for the passage of the 5:16 board meeting minutes.
Move approval of the 5:16 board meeting minutes.
Second?
A motion and a second are heard. Please call the roll, Mrs. Patton.
Kuzminski.
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
McMillan.
Aye.
Wanke.
Aye.
Gerke.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Kush.
Abstain.
Okay, the motion passes. So we'll move on to item 9, communications, and we'll begin with item 9.01, written communications. Listed in board docs are our Freedom of Information requests for the viewing public, as well as for the board. So then we'll move on to item 9.02, superintendent staff school report.
Just will briefly comment that according to our COVID dashboard, DuPage County has moved back into the medium community level transmission. So we're excited to see our numbers trending in the right direction. We will just note for the community, we have been continuing to update the summer site COVID case information. We were unable to update the actual specific numbers by site today. It will be posted and updated tomorrow. So we did update the community transmission level spread, and the case count will be updated tomorrow. But again, we're trending in a very positive direction.
Wonderful. Do we have any questions from the Board of Education with regard to our COVID tracking or our COVID? Joe?
Just a quick question about looking forward to next year. Is there any word on shield testing?
We have begun preliminary conversations to get that scheduled with them, and so we are in line to make that available for next year.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other questions from the board? Okay, so we'll move on then to item 9.03, President's Report. I do not have a President's Report this evening. So we'll move to item 9.04, Board of Education Reports. Are there any Board of Education reports this evening? Nope. Okay, so we'll move to item 9.05. Listed in board docs are our board member assignments. Anything else you want to say about the board member assignments?
No, I didn't receive any feedback, so the document that was posted at the last meeting is the same one, so those will be our assignments for the next school year.
So thank you for the work that you went through to assign all of the board members to our committees and to our adopted schools. We know that the community really values both the opportunities to engage with the board through committees, but also the adopted school program. It's an awesome program, both for the board and for the community. So thank you for your work to put that together. Okay, so then we'll move on to item 10, discussion without action. We do not have any discussion without action this evening. So we'll move to item 11, discussion with action, and we'll begin with item 11.01, 2022-2023 budget.
The administration recommends that the Board of Education approve the resolution which adopts the fiscal year 2023 budget as presented and authorize administration to execute all necessary documents and file the same with all required government agencies. Just noting again to the board, as Mr. Francis pointed out, we are awaiting the document to be completed, to be available by ISB, and once that is done, we'll send it to you for your signatures. We've made all of the comments we need to regarding the budget during the hearing. We're happy to answer any questions from the board.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, that little document that we usually have every single board member sign, we're not going to do that right now, we'll do it later?
Yeah, that document is
Got
not
it.
available. That's just the first
Okay.
page of the state budget form.
Yes, okay,
They're
got
still
it.
working on it.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I think they indicated it would be available by the end of June, they think.
They said, on their website, it says June 30th. It's typically available we're one of the first districts, and not the first district in the state, that adopts its budget. At this point, State Board is a little bit late in getting their form ready, but they said that on their website, it'll be up by the end of the month.
Is there any reason that we would have to sign it more quickly than a board meeting, or can we just sign it at the next board meeting then? If it's
We're gonna-
available on the 30th? We can sign
I've
it.
checked with legal. I will double check with them once this is adopted. They feel that the board can, this book is more thorough, and the numbers will match
Okay.
the document that the board signs. So how we bring that back to the board, we'll double check with them.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other, sorry for that, those details, get those details out of the way. What about from the Board of Education, any comments on the 2022-2023 budget besides those which we've already made during the budget hearing? Okay, so if there are no additional comments or questions, I will entertain a motion for the 2022-2023 budget.
I move approval of the 2022-2023 budget as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second are heard. Please call the roll, Mrs. Patton.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Kosminski.
Aye.
Gerke.
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Kush.
Aye.
McMillan.
Aye.
Wanke.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. So we'll move on now to item 11.02, consideration of Board of Education expenses.
The Board of Education Policy 2125 requires all board members' expenses for travel, meals, and/or lodging be approved by roll call vote in an open meeting with the Board of Education. There's a recommendation for approval of receipts from the June 6th, 2022 meeting. I recommend the board approve it as presented.
Questions or comments from the Board of Education? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the Board of Education expenses.
Motion to approve item 11.02, consideration of Board of Education expenses.
Second.
Motion and a second are heard. Please call the roll, Mrs. Patton.
Wanke.
Aye.
McMillan.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Kosminski.
Aye.
Gerke.
Aye.
Kush.
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. So we'll move on then to item 11.03, Policy Manual, Section 6.
As the board is aware, we have been working on a comprehensive policy manual update in collaboration with the Illinois Association of School Boards. Policy Manual Section 6 is the final section to be approved, while we will still have some outstanding individual policies we'll need to go back and review. We recommend that the board approve the policies that are presented this evening as presented.
Okay, and as I want to say, as I have throughout this process, thank you to our staff for their tremendous amount of work in looking through each of these policies individually and giving thought to both the new proposed changes and our old policies and coming up with the policies that encompass really what we need to have for our school district. I am really excited that we're completing this process. From now on, we probably will see additional policy updates more frequently because now we can conform to our our press format. They know what we have, and we'll be able to do those more quickly so their policies stay updated as per state law and court cases. So that's really exciting. So thank you to our board and also to our staff. Any other comments about the Policy Manual, Section 6? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve item 11.03, Policy Manual, Section 6, as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second are heard. Please call the roll, Mrs. Patton.
Kush.
Aye.
McMillan.
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Kosminski.
Aye.
Gerke.
Aye.
Wanke.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. So we'll go, yes.
I just want to acknowledge the work that you and Tony put into this committee. It was an enormous amount to take on and a new committee for us as a board. And so thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Tony.
That was our pleasure, so thank you. Okay, all right. Item 11.04, SRO, MOU, and IGA.
I want to, again, thank the Naperville Police Department, the City of Naperville, for their collaboration with us. We have been working on this for quite some time. I know the board is eager to have this in front of them for action, and we'll go to the Naperville City Council later in July. We recommend that you approve the MOU and IGA as presented. I know Dr. Holland has responded to a couple of questions. I don't know if Dr. Holland, do you have anything additional to say this evening, or we'll just take questions from the board? Yeah.
No, I just want to say thank you for your feedback, your questions, and for pushing us to consider your recommendations.
Okay. Thank you again for the hard work and the long process this has been. We're excited to have this product. Questions from the Board of Education? Charles.
So not so much, well, a little bit of a question. So I think at the last meeting where we talked about this, when it was in discussion without action, I'd asked a question around getting student feedback or input on the SROs from members of the community or students and or their parents. And my understanding is that there's going to be some kind of, that's going to be incorporated. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So the request was to get student feedback. Although it's not something that we require for other staff members, we did discuss the recommendation, and there's agreement to implement a feedback form that will be shared with families to respond to following an incident, that all incidents that involve an SRO. We agree that it's more appropriate to request feedback from families that are actually engaged with the SRO rather than just sending out a feedback form to everyone who may not have an interaction with the SROs. So we're partnering with Naperville Police Department to develop a few questions, and the responses will be reviewed and considered as a part of the SRO evaluation process. We'll consider that not only for the overall evaluation process, but consider it towards ongoing growth and improvement, as well as an opportunity to identify professional learning and professional development experiences, not just possibly for the SROs, but also for our staff.
Very cool. I just wanted to comment how appreciative I am of that. I think it's great, and I think that it will really help to elevate the overall engagement and give us some learnings as you articulated in your response there. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Okay, additional questions? All right, I will entertain a motion for the SRO, MOU, and IGA.
I move approval of item 11.04, the SRO, MOU, and IGA as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second are heard. Please call the roll, Mrs. Patton.
Kosminski.
Aye.
Kush.
Aye.
Wanke.
Aye.
McMillan.
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Gerke.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. So we'll move on in our agenda to item 11.05, Board Resolution.
As part of its ongoing membership and participation in the Illinois Association of School Boards, boards of education are encouraged to submit recommendations to IASB for consideration of resolutions for positions for IASB to consider. A draft of a resolution from Naperville 203 submitted by Mr. Kosminski is loaded in board docs. Recommend you approve it as drafted. Mr. Kosminski, I don't know if you had anything else to say about it.
No, I received no additional comments or edits to be incorporated into the resolution, so I hope that everyone will support this resolution.
I want to thank you for your initiative in bringing this forward and your work to draft it and to research both some of the facts behind it, as well as really working to make the wording suggestive of, the fact that it is a real priority for IASB as well as for our school districts. I think that will help to make it be successful. So thank you for doing that, and we'll look forward to hopefully them taking action in a positive way. Charles.
I wanted to second Kristen's comments around the initiative you took on this. Very well written, and I think it's really important work. And it's I'm always proud when we as a district can actually be bringing forward these kind of progressive and new ideas, especially on a broader scale. So thank you for taking the lead on that and putting together a really well-written resolution. And with that,
I don't see any addition. Oh, did you have one? Oh, Christine?
Then never mind.
I wanted to thank Joe also. I like the wording of how it can be beneficial, not just for our students, but the staff and the broader community. It shows, I like how it just illustrates that schools are a very central piece of the community, and it's nice when we can also try to take initiative to moving the whole community forward to something better. So thanks for that wording.
I think it really captures a lot of the dialogue that the board has had, throughout this past several months and even years, talking about working towards transitioning towards buses. All right, so I will take that motion now, Charles.
I move approval of item 11.05, board resolution as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second are heard. Please call the roll, Mrs. Patton.
Wanke,
Aye.
Gerke,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
McMillan,
Aye.
Kush,
Aye.
Kuzminski,
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Good luck with the committee, the resolutions committee. All right, so we'll go on to item 12, old business. We do not have old business this evening, so we'll move to item 13, new business. We do not have new business this evening, so we'll move to item 14, upcoming events, and we'll start with 1401, schedule of events.
Okay, I will first note that this evening is our last scheduled meeting at Washington Junior High School, with the plan to return to the Public School Administration Center for the July 18th meeting. I'll also note that the board, this is a very busy hiring season, filling vacancies from retirements and other reasons for vacancies. So the board has agreed to add a meeting on Tuesday, July 5th at 10 o'clock in the morning. We will check the room availability at PSAC. I expect it'll be there, but July 5, 2022 at 10 a.m., mostly for the purpose of addressing recommendations for employment.
Okay, so this board meeting will be noticed as our normal, but it's just additional because of the need to do an additional boarding meeting for hiring. So thanks for highlighting that. All right, so we'll move on then to item 15, adjournment. The board is not going to adjourn this evening. We are going to return to closed session to consider the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district. We will not take any action in closed session. Rather, we will simply adjourn at the conclusion of the closed session. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to return to closed session for the already stated reason under item 2.02.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second are heard. Please call the roll, Mrs. Patton.
McMillan,
Aye.
Kuzminski,
Aye.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Kush,
Aye.
Gerke,
Aye.
Casey.
Aye.
Wanke.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. We will return to closed session. Good night, everyone.